as coverage you can count on begins in McDuffie County, where that plane crash that killed 5 people continues to be looked into.
The National Transportation Safety Board is investigating that plane crash right now. It happened near the intersection of Washington Road and Edmond Road. That's right next to the McDuffie County Airport and across from the new hospital near the Milliken plant. Crews say 7 people were on board the plane. This is aerial video of the crash site. Investigators say the plane was coming from Nashville, Tennessee, and that the crash was caused after the aircraft apparently overshot the runway.
The victims were all employed at the Vein Guys Clinic, and tonight we know the names of 3. Dr. Stephen Davis of the Vein Guys Clinic in Nashville says Dr. Stephen Roth of the Augusta Clinic, along with 29-year-old Tiffany Porter, an ultrasound technician, were killed. A friend of a 3rd victim says 28-year-old Heidi McCorkle, also an ultrasound technician, died. We are still waiting for the other 2 victims' identities. We know they were a nurse anesthetist and a secretary. We're going to stay on that.
And we will bring you more on the victims in a moment. But first, we continue to learn new details about that plane crash.
The National Transportation Safety Board released new details at a news conference just a little bit ago. Archith Seshadri was there.
Archith joins us now live near the crash site in Thompson as we begin our team coverage. Archith.
That's right, Brad and Jenny. Now take a look behind me. This is where the plane crashed nearly 24 hours ago. And just a few hours ago, the NTSB released some of the details about what exactly went wrong during those final moments of that plane. NTSB investigators arrived from Washington, D.C. Thursday morning to piece together clues about Wednesday night's fatal plane crash.
But the wreckage was strewn over about 100 yards. I can tell you that the wreckage was severely fragmented, and it is almost completely destroyed by fire.
Investigators say 5 passengers were on board, along with 2 pilots. Investigators say the plane overshot the runway at Thompson McDuffie Airport. The plane attempted to take off again, collided with a utility pole, and then crashed into the woods.
When I say that the wreckage is breathtaking, I mean it. You walk up and you say to yourself, where is the airplane? It's a burned out area. It does not look like an airplane. And so that's what the task of our investigative team led by Ralph Hicks is going to do.
The NTSB will determine if weather or human error played a role in the crash. They'll make the recommendations to prevent future tragedies like this one.
Our team of investigators will be looking at the following areas. We will be looking at aircraft performance. We'll be looking at the operations of the aircraft. We'll be looking at maintenance of the aircraft. We'll be looking at structures, the aircraft structure. We'll be looking at survival factors. Why did some perish while others lived? We'll be looking at those types of issues. We'll be looking at human factors to better understand what was going on in the cockpit of that airplane.
NTSB investigators plan to be here for several more days to get data before any of the evidence here perishes. Now, they have scheduled another press conference for tomorrow morning. Now, we also will be telling you coming up on News Channel 6 at 6 what the GBI and the FAA plan to do with this investigation and what their role is. Reporting live here in Thompson, Archith Seshadri, WJBF, News Channel 6.
Archith, thanks. Well, what about that airplane that went down? We can tell you it was a Hawker Beechcraft 390 Premier 1 jet aircraft. That is according to the FAA, and that picture that we've been showing you is what the plane looks like, just like the one that was in McDuffie County last night. It's a private light jet aircraft.
And once again, a look at the victims of the plane crash, the names that have been released so far by Dr. Stephen Davis, who is from the Vein Guys Clinic in Nashville. He tells us one of the victims is Dr. Stephen Roth of the Vein Guys Clinic here in Augusta. Also, 29-year-old ultrasound technician Tiffany Porter, and a friend of the 3rd victim says that 28-year-old Heidi McCorkle, who was also an ultrasound technician, died in the crash. The other 2 were also employees at the Vein Guys.
Tonight, the chief operating director of the Vein Guys has released a statement. Kelly Van says, "We are a family, and our hearts weigh heavy today as we have lost members of our team. Words cannot express our grief." People all over the CSRA are doing their best to get together, find ways to support the family and friends of those victims. You're looking at a picture of a prayer group from First Baptist Church of Thompson. All of them 8th graders from Thompson McDuffie Middle School. They were at the crash site earlier today just to hold hands, just to remember.
Of course, those victims leave behind many family members and friends.
Yeah, all of them trying to figure out what to do in these initial moments filled with so much shock, so much mourning.
Barkley Bishop joins us now live from the Vane Guys Augusta Clinic on Evans Town Center Drive. Barkley, the office remained closed today.
Yeah, Jenny, it has certainly been a very somber day here at the clinic, and as the hours unfold, we're learning more about these victims, not just about what positions they held here, but what they were like outside of work. One thing that remains true to everyone we've spoken with is that these staff members were more like family rather than colleagues.
Shock. I mean, just hard to believe, still hard to believe.
Shock seems to be the only word to describe the feeling, as word that 5 people were killed in a tragic Thompson plane crash Wednesday night. On board were staff members of an Augusta practice, the Vane Guys. 5 of them were killed, including Dr. Stephen Roth.
Just a good friend. I mean, he's easy to talk to, and just you're gonna miss him. I mean, he's just one of those doctors you hate to lose.
Friends of 28-year-old Heidi McCorkle, the practice's lead ultrasound tech, tells us she was also killed on that flight, leaving behind 2 small children.
They loved her to death and had a lot of passion for her kids and did a great job for the Vane Guys, and she's just going to be sorely missed.
We're told the other victims include Lisa Valpito, a nurse anesthetist for the practice, and ultrasound technician 29-year-old Tiffany Porter of Albany, Georgia.
That family at the Vane Guys, and it is a family, they're a real close-knit bunch. I mean, they take vacations together, cruises together, that kind of thing, and every time you talk to somebody from that office, it was just a pleasure for them to be working there.
As the investigation continues and more information is released, one thing remains the same: the continued need for support for the families and friends that these victims leave behind.
Just pray. That's our biggest weapon in our arsenal, is to pray for people. It helps when nothing else will, and the phenomenon of prayer is just something unimaginable by most people, and I'm telling you, it works. Just a simple prayer will get these people through it.
All 5 of the deceased, their bodies have been taken to Decatur, Georgia for autopsy results. Now the clinic will be closed tomorrow. There's no word on when it's expected to be open. If you are a patient and you have an appointment, staff members have likely already tried to contact you. If they haven't, feel free to call their main facility number at 706-854-3333. They can help you answer all of your questions. And of course, in any kind of situation like this where an emergency has happened, medical teams are always ready and prepared to do their call of duty. That's where Courtney Elledge picks up our live coverage from here. Courtney?
Barkley, it's modern equipment and intense training that doctors say saved 2 patients involved in last night's flight. They were transported to the center shortly after 9 p.m. and that's when the clock started ticking. Georgia Regents Medical Center houses the first level 1 trauma center in the state. There are only 5 in Georgia. Doctors say that specialized emergency training and treatment saved 2 patients' lives.
Trauma and ER staff at Georgia Regents Medical Center undergo monthly drills by their emergency management specialists. These drills train them specifically for unusual cases, like plane crashes. This preparation is what had experts staying calm when they received 2 patients Wednesday night after a Hawker Beechcraft 390 Premier crashed with them aboard.
So in the grand scheme of what we do, 2 patients from a scene is something that we're very comfortable taking care of.
First, patients are admitted into the emergency room for a quick evaluation. After their exams and based on their status, like Wednesday night patients, they are transmitted to the trauma unit.
Here at Georgia Regents Medical Center, time is of the essence. In fact, working quickly and efficiently is what helped save 2 of the patients that were involved in last night's flight.
The clock starts ticking at the time of the injury. We have about an hour to be able to do something to definitively deal with those injuries. Then we make sure that they don't have any obvious deformities or disabilities from the injuries. We make sure, even though it's their best clothing, it gets exposed so that we can take a look and make sure that there are no other injuries.
In Wednesday night's case, both patients were in what's considered the best hands in the state of Georgia. All trauma staff members are required to take extra classes every 4 years. And in order to stay on the floor, doctors and nurses have to have an adult trauma life support certificate.
We all trained for this. It was a long and rigorous training, and we do it because it's our passion to do so.
The center also has some of the top medical equipment in the state. Now, right now, the names of the 2 patients are not being released. One patient is not allowing any information at all to be released. In fact, we do know one male is in critical condition, though. Monitor WJBF.com for the latest. Live in the newsroom, I'm Courtney Elledge. Back to you, Jenny.